I live in the shadows of the past. Family destroyed, business lost, future dim. My name is Alex Shepard, and I want to tell you a story about how ambition and greed can destroy even the most successful and close-knit families. This story begins at a time when our family business was at its peak. We controlled a significant share of the market, and there was no doubt that the Shepard dynasty would retain its leadership position for many years to come. On the surface, everything looked perfect. Shiny offices, multi-million-dollar contracts, luxury cars, and endless opportunities. But behind this facade of prosperity was a grim reality, a power struggle that was slowly eating away at our family from the inside. We were certain that nothing could shake our position. My father, John Shepard, had been at the helm of the company since its inception, and his authority was unquestioned. We children grew up in an atmosphere of success and confidence. It seemed that nothing could change this order of things. But, as it turned out, human passions and ambitions can turn everything upside down. It all started with the sudden decision of my father, John Shepard, to retire. This man, who had always been the heart and soul of the company, suddenly announced that he wanted to hand over the leadership to the next generation. For me, the eldest son, it was a logical step. I had been preparing for this moment all my life. I believed my father would appreciate my diligence, my skills and experience gained from years of working side by side with him. But instead, he made a choice that was a real blow to me. He appointed my younger sister, Caitlin, as his successor. Caitlin had always been talented and ambitious, but her interests lay more in art and philanthropy than in business. She often spent time in galleries, participating in cultural events and organizing charity events. Her passion for art was obvious, but I never thought she would be interested in running a company. My father explained his choice by saying that she had all the qualities needed to run the company and suggested that I become vice president, helping her make important decisions. This moment came as a real shock to me. I couldn't understand why my father chose her over me. Didn't I deserve this position after working side by side with him for so many years? I had put my heart into the business, studied every detail, every aspect of our operations. I knew the company inside and out, and now I was being asked to settle for a supporting role. Anger boiled inside me, mixed with frustration and a sense of injustice. But what could I do? To refuse would be to go against my father's will, which was unthinkable for me. So I agreed, though a storm of emotions continued to rage inside me. I hoped that I could influence the situation from within, that I could show my father and the rest of the family that I was worthy of more. But with each passing day, it became harder and harder to hide my discontent. The first few months after Caitlin's appointment went relatively smoothly. We tried to compromise and work together, despite our differences of opinion. But as time went on, our differences began to grow. Caitlin insisted on implementing projects related to social responsibility and the environment, while I saw the future of the company in expanding production and conquering new markets. Our arguments became increasingly bitter, and eventually we practically stopped communicating outside of work meetings. Each day brought new challenges. In meetings, Caitlin openly criticized my proposals, calling them outdated and not innovative enough. She argued that we should follow current trends and invest in clean technology, even if it meant reducing profits in the short term. I tried to explain to her that this approach could weaken our position in the market, but she remained adamant. As time went on, I felt that my role in the company was becoming less and less important. My sister ignored my suggestions, and my ideas went unheeded. I tried to remain calm, but anger boiled inside me. Why didn't she trust my experience and knowledge? Why did she think she knew better, even though she had never been seriously involved in business? At some point, I realized that Caitlin simply didn't trust me. This feeling was especially painful because I'd always believed that our family business was what united us, not what separated us. But now it was clear that a wall of mistrust and misunderstanding had grown between us. So I turned to my younger brother, Mark, for support. He had always been on my side and was well aware of how important it was to maintain our position in the market. We often discussed the company's current problems, and Mark fully supported my ideas. Together, we decided that we had to act. We realized that if we continued on the path suggested by Caitlin, the company could face serious financial difficulties. So we began to develop a strategy that would allow us to regain control of the situation. We began gathering information about what projects Caitlin was planning to pursue. Each new proposal caused us more and more concern. Many of these initiatives were related to social projects and environmental programs that required significant investments but did not guarantee a quick return. We conducted a thorough analysis and came to the conclusion that the implementation of most of these plans could lead to significant losses for the company. With this data in hand, we prepared a detailed report and presented it to my father. We hoped that he would see the risks and realize that Caitlin's strategy could be detrimental to our family business. We hoped that he would intervene and change his mind about leadership. But instead of the expected support, we received a reprimand. Dad was firm in his opinion. He said he believed in Caitlin's abilities and that we should work together, not against each other. He reminded us that the family should remain united, regardless of disagreements. Those words sounded like a judgment to me. I couldn't believe that my father didn't see the danger that Caitlin's politics posed. It was the last thing I wanted to hear. Then Mark and I decided to take a different path. We realized it was pointless to rely on my father's support, so we went to the major shareholders. We started negotiating, trying to convince them that a change in management was necessary to keep the company going. We explained that the current strategy was leading to financial losses and that only radical changes would stabilize the situation. We promised the shareholders profit and stability if they supported our proposal. Of course, it was a risky move. If our initiative had failed, we could have lost everything. But there was no other way out. We were already too far gone, and retreat was impossible. One evening, as I was returning home after another hard day, I received a phone call from Mark. His voice was shaking. "Alex, we have a problem. Caitlin found out about our plans. She's going to sue us for trying to take over." I got nervous. I couldn't believe it had turned out this way. All we wanted to do was save the company. How could she do this? My mind was spinning with thoughts of what we had done wrong, where we had made a mistake. Maybe we were too frank in our conversations, or was one of the employees not as trustworthy as we thought he was? I spent the entire evening in anxious reflection, unable to find a place for myself. The next morning, Mark and I went to my father's house. He met us in his study, looking pale and silent. It was obvious he was having a hard time talking about this. We stood in front of him with our heads down, not knowing what to say. Finally, my father said, "Children, you're destroying what I've been building all my life. Have you forgotten what it was all about? For you, for your safety and your future. And now you are ready to destroy it all because of your ambition." His words pierced through me. I realized that I had made a mistake. All our efforts to save the company had turned against us. We had destroyed what was supposed to unite us, and now the consequences of our actions would be irreversible. But it was too late to change anything. The litigation continued for months, dragging on through endless hearings and appeals. The shareholders split into two camps. Some supported Caitlin, others supported us. Disagreements between the parties grew deeper and deeper, and tensions within the company grew by the day. As a result, internal conflicts began to affect the entire organization. The company began to lose customers and revenues plummeted. Customers began to leave to our competitors, seeing the instability and uncertainty in the future of our company. Each month brought new losses, and the management was faced with a difficult choice, either to look for ways out of the crisis or to accept the inevitable collapse. Employees were leaving their jobs, fearing for their future. An atmosphere of fear and uncertainty prevailed everywhere. People were leaving entire departments, leaving the company without key people. Even those who remained worked with a sense of anxiety, waiting for news of what might happen next. Finally, after months of waiting, the court ruled that Caitlin would retain control of the company, but with a condition that she consult with the board of directors, which included both Mark and me. It seemed like a compromise, but everyone realized that the real power remained in Caitlin's hands. We had only received a formal vote, which would make little difference. It was a small consolation. We had lost the trust of shareholders, employees, and, most importantly, each other. Relationships between us had finally soured, and every meeting turned into a battle of ambitions and interests. We could no longer work together as effectively as before. The company never again became the powerful corporation it once was. We tried to rebuild it, but each time we faced new challenges. The departure of key employees, loss of trust from partners, and constant financial difficulties were eroding the company's foundations. After a few years, it became clear that the business could not be saved, and the company was sold to a major competitor. The Shepard name disappeared from the market forever, leaving only memories of former successes and greatness. The story did not end there. Sometime after the sale of the company, Mark suddenly disappeared. At first, we thought that he simply decided to go abroad to start a new life away from all the problems and disappointments. But weeks went by, and there was no word from Mark. No one knew where he was, and even his close friends hadn't heard from him. The police launched an investigation, but the search was fruitless. No trace of Mark could be found. His cell phone was disconnected, his bank accounts were frozen, and no one could say what had happened. Various rumors and speculations began to emerge around this mysterious story, but the truth remained hidden. Almost a year passed, and one night a stranger came to me. He looked rather strange. He was dressed in a long cloak. His face was hidden under a wide-brimmed hat. The stranger introduced himself as the private detective that Mark had hired shortly before his disappearance. I thought it was a joke at first, but as he began to tell his story, I felt uneasy. The detective told me the shocking news. Mark suspected that Caitlin was behind all our failures. According to the detective, Mark had gathered evidence that Caitlin had used her connections and influence to sabotage our plans and eliminate our competitors. She had allegedly conspired with major players in the market to weaken our company's position and ensure her complete control. Mark was about to turn this information over to the police, but suddenly disappeared. This information shocked me. If it was true, Caitlin was much more cunning and devious than we thought. Maybe that's why Mark disappeared. Someone didn't want this information to go public. The detective opened a thick envelope in front of me, from which he took out a lot of documents. Among them were phone records, emails, and financial statements that confirmed Mark's terrible suspicions. Each page contained information that exposed Caitlin as a traitor and manipulator. Phone records showed that Caitlin was negotiating with competitors, offering them lucrative deals in exchange for their help in weakening our company's position. Emails revealed how she orchestrated leaks of confidential information to undermine our market position. Financial reports show that money was being funneled out of the company through shell companies controlled by Caitlin, artificially creating financial distress. When I saw all this evidence, my heart clenched with pain and anger. How could my own sister do such a thing? She went behind the family's back, deliberately driving the company into bankruptcy so that she could sell it and make a huge profit. All of our efforts, all of our work, had been for nothing because of her greed and lust for power. I looked at the detective, who was silently watching my reaction. When I finally found the strength to ask him the ultimate question, he sighed and said, "Mark left me these documents shortly before he disappeared. He asked me to give them to you if anything happened to him." The detective paused, as if gathering his thoughts. His tracks are lost in Europe. Perhaps he fled when he learned the truth. Or his voice shook, and he finished the sentence, looking straight into my eyes, or he was taken out. Those words sounded deafening. What if my own sister really went to such extreme measures for power and money? What if she really was responsible for Mark's disappearance? The thought made me go cold. Everything that was happening around me now took on a new, terrifying meaning. Today, I was living in the shadow of the past. Our family is shattered. Our business is lost. and the future is hazy. I don't know what happened to Mark, and I may never know. But one thing I do know is that family feuds are always tragic. They leave wounds that are difficult to heal. I hope my story serves as a lesson to those who are faced with a choice between family and business. Remember that sometimes it is better to give in than to lose everything.